Welcome back, Business Geeks, to the Business Geeks podcast. I'm Joe Pardo, and I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts here, Samantha Riley of SamanthaRiley.global. How you doing today, down under, Sam?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Just
Great,
good.
Joe.
Why not? Why not great?
Oh, well, okay. So here's the story. We
Okay.
went interstate last week. Super exciting. Went back to our hometown, went back to Sydney, flew on a plane for the first time, picked up some sort of little bug, not COVID, but feeling a bit, but it was good to be back on a plane again. It's just part of it, right? We've all been holed up. So there's all these bugs out there going, let us at them, let us at them.
I've heard that a lot from people, Sam, that people, who've started travel and they pay the price because they come back and the next day they're sick with some sort of bug, and 9 times out of 10 it's not been COVID, although I've been hearing more and more about COVID lately. So
Yeah,
who knows?
totally.
But yeah.
Yep. But I'm alive and I'm here and I'm good. I'll be great next time.
You look great.
Yes, you look
Thanks,
wonderful
Jen.
for, what is it,
Thanks,
7 o'clock in
Joe.
the morning there? Or...
It is 7:02 a.m. So, woo, I'm here.
So
Well,
impressed.
thank you for joining us. Also, we're joined by Jennifer Crawford of Sparent.co. Welcome, Jen. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. I can't complain.
Can't complain. Oh, well, if you're doing great, I would think you couldn't complain.
No, yeah, I'm in a gratitude practice, so it keeps me centered.
Oh, love it.
I am right
Yes.
there with you. I am trying to be the bigger person at every turn, and doesn't always work that way. But we try our best, and then we
Wow.
keep trying.
Well, we're only
I
human,
know.
right?
Yeah, you're only
Yes.
human, and I know you. There's something you've got to talk about today that plays into that vibe. So we'll get into it.
Yes, we will. But other than that, I'm doing quite well overall. Like it's sometimes things get you down, and you just got to keep rolling with it, because getting mad, getting angry, just waste brain cycles. That instead of getting the problem fixed, and that's what we're all about here. That's why I always say entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and that's what you need to be focused on, not just getting mad, angry, and inventing all kinds of storylines in your mind about whatever. Just fix the darn problem. I had to censor myself there. First, I had to catch
Well, that's
myself.
our tagline here. Just fix the done problem. I like that. Well done.
Yes.
But
Yes,
you know what,
yes.
Joe? I think it's okay to be mad. It's a legit emotion, and
I was
think that
thinking the same thing, Jen.
sometimes I feel like there's this pressure to always be positive and always be upbeat and always be, no matter what's happening, and that's just not realistic. And I think it can be really toxic. I think they call it toxic positivity. I think it's okay to be mad and angry and frustrated. No, you shouldn't dwell in it. No, that shouldn't be where you stay. You need to, but I think those are legit emotions that we all feel, and we don't need to apologize for them, as long as we're not abusing anybody in the process. So
Well, I think there's a
Here,
fine
here.
line. There's a fine line there. I mean, look, have either of you been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yes,
Slightly.
right. I
Probably
wrote
spending
Melissa
more
into
time
it.
following it than I should be. It is
Yes.
very addictive.
They live a life we may never have, and
bizarre.
probably for good reason. But yeah, so I got Melissa roped into that because she didn't follow it for like the first week and a half or something like that, and then I asked her a question about it, so she was like, "Oh," and then she started looking, and now she can't look away.
Yeah,
I know,
Um,
it's like that, isn't it? Yeah.
It really, I had to pull myself away these last 2 days. I've been a little too busy to be able to follow along, like with the minute to minute stuff. The highlights, sure, but no, but I think for me, it's about being disappointed, and directing that anger into that versus like blind rage and
Lashing out.
yeah, I think the level of disappointment is frustrating, and disappointing, to borrow a word from itself. But yeah, so I do agree though that emotions are good, and it's not that I don't wasn't angry at some point, but it just like anger might be like a 3 or 4 or 5 second thing, and then we go to disappointment, and we go to move, and with that disappointment we move forward to figure out the solution to the problem versus like turning into a all day occurrence or something to that effect.
Are you going to tell us about this problem? Because I don't know if anybody knows what you're talking about right now.
No, well, I'm sure the one person does. I know at least one person does out there, but it's okay. We'll get to that problem after we follow up with some news topics that I don't know. Was it you, Jen, or Sam that put in these news topics?
Jen?
I think it was me.
Jen. Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen. Let's get those. And while we're going through those, if you have any questions related to your business, growing your business, or whatever issues you have going on in your business, well, you got 3 amazing problem solvers here today. Also, I should mention, did I mention on the show that it's my 8th anniversary podcasting, which is pretty cool.
Yay!
Yay! Right? Which is pretty awesome to get to say, an honor to get to serve people and to learn along and in that journey as well. So it's very, very cool, and it's great to share.
Congratulations,
share with both of you. We didn't plan that.
Congratulations! I think it's huge. Yeah,
Absolutely.
podcasting's like dog years. It's way longer than 8 years.
Oh God, it is. It is. It is a job.
Absolutely.
Times 10.
Yeah.
But hey, if you don't want all the work that goes into it, head over to yourpodcastconcierge.com, and Leon can help take care of you to make that podcasting journey just that much easier and get things done. Now, let's Jen, you're up. So you what do we got here? Ex Wells Fargo exec says,
Yeah, the company has been holding fake interviews with women and people of color. These are for jobs that they've already filled, and this was simply to improve their numbers and inflate their diversity efforts on paper. So talk about, anger. This is where I feel like, anger is justified. This is so infuriating on so many levels. And, of course, now they're, promising to do better and they're going to look into it. But I can't think of anything. I don't want to use the word evil. But I want to, because I think racism and systemic racism is evil, and this is just a prime example of the systemic nature of it. And rather than just have a diverse and robust and a team with depth, they would rather go through all of these machinations to work around it, to make it look like they've done it. So in other words, they don't think it's valuable to their company to actually, fulfill their team with a diverse representation of, the BIPOC community or LGBTQIA community. And I think this looks really bad. It's not the first misstep from big banks. Let's be honest.
Well, Wells Fargo specifically, because they have a history of doing bad things. This is why I'm laughing, because it's so characteristic of them and big banks.
Absolutely.
To do
Pull
this
your money
kind of
out.
nonsense.
Put your money under the mattress.
Oh, come on.
No,
I don't know about that.
I'm done with banks. I'm done.
Oh.
You're not working for us.
No, well, they're not.
Working for us. What do they do for us? Tell me one thing a bank has done for you. Tell me. I hear crickets, people. Say it in the comments. Tell me. I'm curious. Why do we need them? I'm angry. Righteous anger.
I mean, mortgages are a good thing.
Yeah, well, that is the point.
Crickets
So they can process money.
No. I'm with you on that, Joe. Mortgages are a good thing.
I mean, look, that doesn't mean they give them out the right way. It doesn't mean there isn't a history of things that are done.
Do you not remember 2008?
I do, and that was partially because they were
because of those mortgages.
But they were giving out too many mortgages.
Yeah.
So but why did they do that? Right? Is because they were told that, hey, everybody deserves to get a house, right? So, but does everybody deserve to get 5 houses? Probably not, right?
People don't deserve to be over leveraged and misled into loans they can't afford.
Yes.
Anyway, you can defend banks all day long. I'm not doing it today. I'm not defending any banks. Wells Fargo.
And rightfully so. When you talk about like, should they fake the? So I heard it to go hand in hand with this, and that's without reading it, and I don't want this to come off as I'm making an excuse for them.
Don't do that, Joe. It's not the time.
So I happened to be in the room when CNBC was talking about Walmart and Target, right? And all of a sudden they flipped on the whole, there's a worker shortage to, oh, we have too many workers and we're going to fire them. So the question is, oh yeah. So they're just like, yep, we have too many workers now. We overhired, basically. So my question at that point is was this part of buying into the whole worker shortage thing? They just literally didn't have people, or, I mean, again, this is without me reading it or looking into it.
I'm thinking
no
more seeing this
position.
specific.
There was no position. There was zero
The position had already been filled by white men.
Yeah. But they had to make it look like they were putting in a diversity and inclusion effort. So they were bringing in people of color and from diverse backgrounds to interview so they can check the box and make it look legit, but they weren't hiring them because there was no job to be had. So wasting these poor people's time.
And yes, this is a very good case, Jen, of anger, because I opened up and went, I actually don't, it's just not on. It's not ethical.
It's not ethical.
So these are actual interviews they conducted with people for no real position.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was like I didn't know if it was like we checked the box that when there was no, like, we literally did no interview. We just checked the box.
Yeah, they brought people in.
No, they brought people in.
Wow, that's some like knowing. That's like some knowingly evil stuff there. Yeah. I'd rather them just check the box. At least you're not screwing with people's thoughts and people's like hopes
emotions,
and like potential
time.
planning, and things like that. Yeah,
this is an embarrassing time in our country when it comes to racial inequality. We it's an embarrassment, and this just plays into that. It's just more proof that for anyone that doubts that we have a problem with racism in the country, this is just one piece of it, but very indicative of the systemic nature of what we're dealing with. And from a company that should be able to offer all the opportunities in the world. They're so big, they're so huge. They could be doing so much good in the world. And instead they did the exact opposite. Shame on them. Pull your money out of Wells Fargo. There are other places.
Well said, Jen.
Yeah, pull it.
Well said. Yeah. We actually need to stand up and act. Otherwise these things keep going on, right?
Yeah, it's not okay. It's not okay. A slap on the wrist is what they're going to get. But if we pull their money, if we stop doing business with these companies when they've been called out on something as egregious as this, then that's the only way we can institute any sort of long-term change. We got to walk away.
So Iram, I hope I'm saying it right. Iram says that's why blockchain will replace banks.
Now there's something really, I don't know a lot about blockchain. Do you guys know much about blockchain?
I don't know other than the highest level, but I've been hearing a lot of things that, it was supposed to be like a decentralization of money, but it's becoming centralized. It's starting to look a lot more like traditional banking.
Wasn't there a big crash sometime in the last couple of weeks that was actually, what's the word? I guess, prompted. No, that was prompted by.
Yeah. That wasn't a couple of weeks. I want to say that was a few months back.
I feel like it happened recently too, Sam. I feel like
I'm sure there was something only a couple of weeks back. All right. Whatever the time frame, I guess it happened it wasn't decentralized, and I don't know enough about it and I can't speak to it, but I am intrigued by it. If it is decentralized, how did all of these people lose so much money that that all happened from something in Wall Street,
Luna.
and I don't know the story.
I mean, it's so I know enough, but not necessarily enough to explain it in like 2 minutes to explain
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of
I
it.
don't think
But
happened
here's
here.
here's the thing, right? And this can happen in any currency in which is not inflationary, like a Bitcoin, where there's a finite amount of coin, right? You end up with these whales. Or I mean, it can happen in an inflationary coin too. But if the inflation is too slow, like you can end up with these whales, they call them, where they own such a large portion of the available coin out there that if they decide, hey, I'm going to sell off, it's going to actually like affect the market to a point where people could lose. Everybody else could wind up losing. And if you only have a couple of whales in each, in that pool, then it only takes two or three people to like, yo, bro, let's sell real quick. And then when they do it at once, and now whatever you had involved is worth nothing now or close to it. Iram says Luna minted $6 billion in a day. Talk about inflation. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things. Like, look, the whole Bitcoin, the whole cryptocurrency, it sounds great in theory, but the problem is you have to actually trust the people that are doing it. While I don't necessarily trust the Federal Reserve here in the States, they do have a track record of like kind of keeping the things on the rails for the last almost 100 years. Okay, so that's worth something. And with that said, like I have Bitcoin, I've had other cryptocurrencies and things like that, but it's very like, who are the gatekeepers, right? And then who are the whales that are doing it? And that's a lot of trust. The more you put into it, that people aren't going to screw with the money. Bitcoin is decentralized, others are not. I guess, is Ethereum not, Iram, decentralized? I thought that it was. I thought it was decentralized because I mean I'm mining for Ethereum constantly, so I'm pretty sure Ethereum's one of them. But I don't know if there's like a central blockchain that the Ethereum developers have themselves. But anyway, let's while Iram gets us an answer to that, let's move on to the next topic that Jen brought to the table here, which is why all employers should pay attention to this new employee monitoring law in New York.
Yeah. So this is another thing that I'm happy about this law, but I'm not happy about why this law was needed. So I'm sure this is probably not news to most people, but as people were working more from home during COVID, and now the virtual workforce is larger than ever, employers have instituted like keyboard tracking software and things on their employees' computers so that they have an inside look into how they are spending their time. So it's very Big Brother. It's very intrusive. There is such a lack of trust in that whole act. They'll take screenshots, every 5 minutes while you're working. So they can ensure that you are butts in seats working every single hour that they think you should be working and not surfing, the internet, doing other things. So as you can imagine, there's not an employee on the planet that likes that type of oversight. And as our work becomes more asynchronous and people are demanding more flexible work, it just makes less and less sense. So New York has taken the lead. I think they may actually be the second state that has instituted similar laws where if you are monitoring your employees, you have to notify them, because there are states where your employer might be monitoring your every move and you don't necessarily know because there's no law saying they need to disclose that to you. So this isn't saying they can't do it, but it is saying that you have to be notified of the types of monitoring that they're doing while you're working. If you have an employer that's doing this, I encourage you to find another employer.
I'm totally against it. I'm with you, Jen.
Yeah.
I know that we have offshore team. Our team's offshore, and I know at the time there was a lot of people saying, you can use software where it grabs their screenshots every 10 minutes, and I'm like, no, not a hope are we doing that. If there's no deliverables, there'll be a question. Like if there's the outcomes
Absolutely.
aren't being met, there'll be a question. But I'm not going to monitor. And I know that when we hired one of our team members, he was like, "Oh, am I allowed to use YouTube when I'm working?" I'm like, "Of course you can. As long as you give me the work, I don't care." And it came out that his last employer said, when he's working, he can't open YouTube, he can't do this. And I'm like, no,
No.
we're dealing
Thank
with
you.
humans here. This
Thank
is
you.
so wrong.
Your
So
employer
wrong.
is not your daddy. Your employer is not your mother. Your employer is your employer. They don't own you. This is way overstepping.
And I don't know about you guys, but do you sort of sit down at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever time you start work and just purely 100% work without getting a little bit of, I'm just going to have a look at this tab, or I just remembered that I've got to transfer some money into my bank account? Like, I do it.
Of course. And it's completely reasonable. Like you said, if you're meeting your deadlines, if your work product is quality, there should be none of your employers' business whatsoever. Are they tracking your time when you're answering emails at midnight?
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
right.
probably not. Probably not.
That's exactly right.
So no, you can't have it both ways. Stop this.
Okay, can I give the
I was going to
unpopular
say,
opinion?
Joe has got a very giving away look on his face right now. What are you about to hit us with?
Okay, so so a couple things. So is this law for only employers or employees that work at home, or is
No, I
this?
don't think so. I think
in
it's
gen- okay, in general.
So the way that I take it, it's specifically talking about online. So it's not talking about cameras in the workplace. It's talking about specifically monitoring your computer.
Okay. So, all right. So a couple things. One, if I was going to have a at-home workforce, I'm supplying the computer, right, for that work, and I expect them to have their own computer. One of my clients works for a very big pharma company, and he has a work computer. He used to work from the office, and he used to be able to do a lot of things. Like he used to be able to send emails out, like with file attachments and things. But since he came home with his laptop, all that stopped. He literally can't. He's put in requests, and they're like, sure, bro, whatever, and then nothing changes. So having that locked down computer can save from an IT perspective. When you're talking about contractors, it's a little like different, when you're talking about contract work and because you can't dictate what they can and can't do. You probably shouldn't be monitoring them unless it was in the contract. But the other instance I'll give where monitoring I would say if you're using a company email, if you're using company computer, I would just assume. I think it's just safe to assume that somebody is monitoring, even if they're not. So I mean, law is cool.
I don't like the assumption.
I don't like the assumption. And we're talking about keyboard tracking. We're talking about making sure your mouse is moving every 2 minutes, like taking.
Although that's micromanagement to a anal degree.
This is what has to now be disclosed in New York. If your employer is monitoring you, they need to know. Like the first example you gave, like security measures, like sure, like if you are working in clearance related work, that sort of thing, like sure, and it's a company computer, I understand like putting security protocols in place. I think that's completely separate and distinct from monitoring. And if you're using a company email, yes, I would assume that like if I were to leave the company, somebody might need to have access to that email, and beware your communications. They should be professional. But that is a far cry from like doing.
This is an extent, right? So the other example I was going to give was back in 2008. I instituted a remote desktop server so that your computer was basically just a dummy terminal that connected to our server, and that's where you used Windows. And the problem that we ran into back then was people would open up Facebook and like Farmville, and it would literally bring the server to its knees because Flash, if anybody remembers Adobe Flash, it would literally bring the server to, like, even just with banner ads that popped up. Like we would institute ad blockers and stuff on the browsers, but sometimes people would disable them, and it would only take like one or two browser tabs, two or three or four browser tabs with like some ads on them to like really slow gum the works up for like 40 plus employees. So like I took out Flash, and that kind of created a problem for a little while. But I was like, look, Steve Jobs said Flash is dead. So as far as I'm concerned, it's dead. It eventually died, but not quick enough.
But that's still not monitoring. That's not
no, well, so because it was all centralized, I had access to all of the website records. I wasn't actively monitoring, but there was times where I did need to go back to maybe prove that somebody was like, not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I got called the internet Nazi because we instituted like website blockers to block very specific websites, and I'd have to whitelist specific websites that got caught up in the mix. So, and really for that was for resource management and more for that than like follow. I mean, the guys were all in the shop, like we're all
that's
everybody's
kind of
it's not like did you move the mouse. I mean, that's just so
heavy-handed.
Yeah, it's over the top.
Mm-hmm.
It is over the top for sure. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't have a problem with doing all those things that I did in the past to make sure that things continue to work and operate in a manner that saved the company a boatload of money by not having to buy new Windows PCs like every 2 years when things were, every 2 years, like computers got faster and faster and faster. And software got bigger and bigger. So, I think, I think if you're on a work computer, you just like, you pretty much have to assume that there's some level of potential for, there's no privacy. Now, monitoring like this, again, I think is a lot.
New York State saying that, you should not have to assume that you should be notified if you're being monitored. I can't imagine being an employee and having that type of employer. Like that has to inject so much anxiety and toxicity into their culture. That is
which brings productivity down. It actually is doing the absolute opposite of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. And it's such short-sighted, so short-sighted, such a short-sighted way to work with your team. I cannot dislike it more.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, good to see you here in the chat with us. So I have a grind my gears before I get to the whole thing that I was talking about in the beginning. Okay. So there's a place around here called Smashburger. Do you have them down in DC?
We
Jen?
do.
You do. Have you ever been to one?
I have not.
I have been to several of them, and I've had the same experience at every single one they have great burgers. Tastes really good.
Tell us about your experience, Joe.
Every time I walk in, if there's more than two people in front of me, I walk out. Because it'll take me 15 minutes to get to the counter. Because it's like, just for them to place the order, even if I know, I walk up and I know exactly what I want, and it still takes forever. It's like they're trying to like put a rocket into space. And all I'm trying to do is order a burger and fries. Like, it's insane how long it takes to get through the line there. And so the point I wanted to bring up was like, is the people who are designing the system actually going through the process in which, utilizing the process in which they're creating for everybody else to utilize? Are they taking proper feedback? Are people giving out actual feedback of like, hey, oh, see, look, Tim's in Dallas.
Yeah, you're back
and
up
he
there.
says, yes, they take forever to get through their lines. I don't
What is
understand
it that
it.
just give? What is the hold up that takes so long?
Yeah,
Like,
I was
what's
wondering
the
the same
issue?
thing.
Training or their computer system or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's good food, just really takes forever to order. I mean, I almost to the point where like if I can order on an app, I'd be more interested in doing that. The food itself takes a while to get as well. And there was like, and the thing is like, so I had this experience the other day when I was there, and I mean, there was like 6 or 7 of them there. And it seemed like the only person that was working the cash register was the person who had the training sticker on their badge, and there was a manager right there. The manager was right there, and the line, like, there was nobody behind me. And then all of a sudden, a few minutes start going by, and I turn around, and there's like 8 people behind me, and I'm like, so I mean, the one guy, I was tracking him because he was like hanging over there was like a little like half wall, and he's like hanging over the wall, and I'm watching and tracking him as I get my burger. I finish, and like he just got the order as I'm finally finishing my food. It just boggles my
Wow.
mind, like, and another company that has this problem, allegedly, from what I've been told, is Disney World, specifically Disneyland, the parks, where the engineers that are developing their apps and their systems and processes are not going to the park themselves. They're going to Universal. So not, they're when you have a developer, when you have an engineer, they see the problem. They're like, oh, I can fix this problem. Boom, boom, boom. We fix the problem. We move on with our lives. But when they're not there to experience the problem in which it's happening, if it's not being reported or reported enough, then they just never gets fixed, and you end up with things like, processes like that. That's just like, why does this take so long? All
Well,
I
we
came
should
for is a
undercover
burger and
boss to
fries.
Smash Burger.
Yeah.
Undercover boss to
Yes.
Smash Burger. Let's get it happening, guys.
Yes, they need real help. They seriously. And where's Lou with our hashtags? That's what we need.
Yeah.
We get the Smash Burger people in here. But
Faster
yeah,
smash
it's just a
burgers.
shame. It's just a shame because the food's really good. It's really enjoyable, but ultimately, really bad experience because you can't just get in and get out.
Well, I'm sorry
What
to
a
hear
shame for
that.
Smash Burger. Like lots of missed revenue there, right?
Well, yeah, because a lot of times, like I said, if I pull up and it's a half wall and I can see right through the window, like when I pull up my car, if there's people in there, I'll just drive. I just go somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They need to know that. That's not good.
they do. They
Oh,
do.
look, Tim has stepped up.
There you
Yes.
Loving
thank
the
you, Tim.
hashtags. Thanks, Tim.
go. We needed
Thank
that.
you,
We
Tim.
needed that really badly.
So the thing that happened here, or that happened with me, was and I don't want to get into all the details and all that, but sometimes the best laid plans go to crap.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would say every day, really, in my world.
We've all been there, done that.
We have a certain type of a system that we use, and this system ties into devices. And the problem is even though I like went through and I say changed an email address to that account that was linked to that account, it didn't actually log out the device that was tied to it, and that person no longer works here. So they were still accessing it for months, and then started to basically send taunt text messages, not to me, but to somebody else, and open up a whole can of worms. Which, hey, it's fine. You want to be like that. That's on you. I can't control your actions, right? I can control mine, and that's what I was talking about earlier with like disappointing, because those actions are very disappointing coming from a person that I once thought pretty highly of. But hey, you want to act like that? That's on you. So all I can do is I can control what I can do. So I went and I thought I fixed one half of the problem. I didn't fix the other half of the problem, and then I went because I found out that was still the problem because of more taunting text messages coming through. I went and took care of the problem today. But it's just very disappointing. It's very disappointing actions from people that you think you think you like, you think you trust, and that's the way they choose to act.
So I take it this person didn't leave on good terms.
Oh, they did. Oh no, they cried. They cried. They didn't want to leave. They didn't want to leave, but they did it for other exterior other, what's the word? Not
External
exterior.
reasons.
Other external. Well, there's another word for that, but
Extenuating.
extenuating. That's it. Circumstances. So they didn't actually want to. Like I said, they literally cried on their way out the door.
Okay.
But yeah, they weren't fired. By the way, they weren't fired. They took a position somewhere else. But yeah, so it's just super disappointing. And I think acting, allowing something like that to get under your skin is not good, right? Like I think anger's good, but like I was angry for seconds about it, and then I was just like, wow, that's really sad that somebody feels like that they could act like that and treat people that they like literally were crying about just months ago. It's just a shame. I feel sorry for them. I like truly do. I'm not just saying that to be like snarky or whatever
Well, it sounds like they're going through something for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, probably because they didn't really like the place that they went to. To begin with. So, but hey, whatever. It's it's never forget, right? So I think the important thing there is make sure that your security is in line. Do your due diligence to double check to make sure, even if you think that something's set up properly or that passwords are set to a certain standard. Because like I'll tell you here, I'm the only one that knew all the passwords because nobody knows what the hell their password is, and they need to be able to log in constantly. So passwords are saved, but so in fact, I might get to a point where we do like a password manager, but that's for the couple of services that we use to begin with, it's not really worth it, and it would probably be more of a headache to have to install said password manager onto said computer and like divvy up. There isn't that many people here. There's I don't know.
Yeah.
Like 30. There's like 50. Like there's probably less than 30 of us total. So it's like it's not to that point where we have like hundreds of people that you have to manage all that. And even then, I would still say a spreadsheet might be the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Localized, but yeah. So just double check. Yeah.
Well, and I find my experience with, both myself in the past, I'm better about it now, but other businesses I work with is that business owners tend to spend a lot more time on their onboarding procedures than their offboarding procedures. So, the new client, the new hire, all the onboarding is like cool, slick, efficient, automated, but then they don't think as smartly about the offboarding, and that's just as important. So
yeah,
it is. So I mean, in my case, I missed I just assume what assume means that you changing the username, so it should when I changed the passwords on that, it actually did log out the Windows app, but it didn't log out the iPhone app or the Android app.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I was actually able to make phone calls from an account that I just changed the password on from the app as if nothing had changed. Yeah, so it's like, hey, you guys need to something should be re-authenticating every once in a while. And it's funny too because that app specifically, it's actually quite a few times over the years has just randomly logged people out of their phone, and they're like, well, I don't know what the password is, Joe, and I'm like, all right, just give it to me, I'll take care of it, kind of thing. So so it's weird, but you just never know.
People will surprise you in good ways most of the time, but occasionally in a bad way.
Yes. Tim brings up In-N-Out Burger. Have either of you been to an In-N-Out Burger?
I actually have not.
No, I know of them, but no, I have not been to one.
So I've been to an In-N-Out Burger a few times. I actually went, Sam, on the way to your conference in Santa Monica. As soon as I got out of the airport, I got in the rental car and drove to an In-N-Out Burger before driving to the hotel. And yeah, so the first time I had it, I didn't care for it. I was like, I don't see what the big deal is. I don't I don't get it. But
Okay.
the second time I had it, my a friend of mine, Dr. Jeff Barnes, was like, "You gotta have it." So we like literally, it was like I don't know, 10:30 in the morning or something. He's like, so we stopped on the way to, he was speaking somewhere, and I was going with him. So we stopped to pick it up at 10:30 in the morning. I'm eating a burger in the car on the way to some casino or something like that in the middle of Pasadena, something like somewhere like that. Anyway, yeah, it is really good. The fries suck. It's pretty well known. I mean, I think the fries kind of suck, but the burger itself is really good. But it's a I don't know. It's hard to describe like why it's so good because it's not.
Because the line moves fast. Why don't we go there?
It's called In and Out.
In and out, in and out, in and out.
Yes, it does. It does move fast, but I mean, McDonald's moves fast too. But I wouldn't go there for a burger. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is really good. Next time you get out to the West Coast, get yourself. Go out of your way to get it. You might have to get two, so you actually like enjoy it the second time around.
All right.
I've got a question, guys. Jen,
Yeah.
what's the update of the acquisition?
Oh my God. Okay, so we've had some drama. It's moving forward, but I think I may have told you that we had decided to go with one of the SBA loans, and it's this type of loan is called the Express loan. And I thought, well, Express, we all want it done fast. So I was like, well, that sounds good to me. Let's do the Express loan. And this was done through our bank, but backed by SBA. So, we were taking guidance from our banker, and they're like, yeah.
Wait, was the bank Smashburger? Because if it is,
No, and it wasn't
there's no
Wells
such thing as
Fargo.
Express there.
So the bank is, PNC Bank. That's who we business bank with.
Yay.
And so they guided us through this process, and it's not a short process. I mean, relatively speaking, we found out pretty quickly, but there's a lot of paperwork, and I feel like they knew more about me than, my husband does. Like, they had all my information on paper. We got turned down for the loan.
Oh.
So, and they said that the reasons were we didn't have experience in the industry. So we're a VA agency buying another
What?
VA agency. But the VA agency we're buying is in a niche, like a sector. And I think they just looked at the sector. So I was like, okay. And then the other one was debt to income ratio. And that was interesting because neither my business partner or I have personal debt. We have zero. The only debt we have are our mortgages. And we have plenty of equity in our homes. So we have assets, and we have money in the bank, and we had no credit card debt whatsoever. And we have no business debt through Sparent. So on paper, I thought financially, I was like, this is the best I've ever looked in my life. Like, I've worked really hard to get here. So we really actually weren't worried about getting it. We were like, we're a good risk. Like, there's nothing to
No
find.
worries at all.
But we got turned down. So, and then in retrospect, an attorney that we're working with that is familiar with sort of, the business purchase process and everything. He's like, oh yeah, the SBA Express loan is really difficult to get. And I was like, well, I wish somebody had said that, because it was a lot of, we had to, write a full business plan, tax returns, P&Ls, like the whole thing. Everything but my passport I gave to them. And it took some effort to get all of that together and present it in the way that they required. And so now we're just going to go a different route. And it looks like most likely we'll just, the person who we're purchasing the business from is just going to finance us personally. So, and I was like, well, we could have saved a lot of time. Like,
That could have happened a lot easier, a lot
I was
faster.
like, that would have been so much
sooner.
easier. And it's like a competitive interest rate. It's not even like we're being like, we're going to have to pay more for the loan. So I think that's what's going to happen. There's a couple other options on the table. So anyway, they're trying to get us to close by the end of this month. I think we're cutting it pretty close. So it's moving forward, I believe, but we've got some details to work out. And I don't believe anything until it's actually signed and ratified. And, until we're at the closing table. So, yeah. So we got turned down.
Wow.
For the SBA loan.
Oh, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Now, my question was that loan like a hard, whatever it's called, on your credit score?
Yeah.
A hard check.
I mean, I
Hard.
guess. I mean, they checked our, credit and all of that, but the credit wasn't an issue.
Mm.
So I don't know. It wasn't even about the
You're
money.
talking. Are you talking about, Joe, that when you apply for something, you actually lose some points on your credit score?
I mean, you can, yeah. If
Oh yeah,
a
Yeah.
hard versus a soft check,
yeah,
I assume
Yeah.
because you went through the loan process and all that, it was
yeah.
probably
I
not a
didn't
soft
ask. I'm
check.
assuming it's a hard check. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm, yeah.
that kind of
Like,
stinks. But I mean,
is
if you
it
have
because
great
Yeah.
I'm a woman?
credit, it's
Is it
probably
because
good.
I'm a woman? I want to know.
It should
Because
be it should be the opposite. I mean, they're always looking to give loans to minorities, women,
they
own
say that.
businesses. Like, I mean, they say
Or
that
are
at
they just
least. I don't know.
pretending like Wells Fargo?
Exactly.
I'm gonna dig a little deeper.
Exactly. Because what do
We
they
didn't get the
really
loan because they
believe?
gave it to like somebody who's been marginalized and hasn't had the same opportunities that I've had as a white woman. I am completely fine. I would much rather, I would pass on that opportunity to give that to somebody else because I've had a lot of advantages in my life just by the virtue of the color of my skin. But I just don't want to know that I lost it because they gave it to a white man. That's all. I'm sorry.
So, well, I guess my question is, was the loan personal to you? Was it like a personal loan to you guys, or was it to the business? Because the
um,
business has only existed for what, 2 years,
three
three
and
years?
some change. Well, we're an S corp, so my understanding is it was through the business, but we personally guarantee it.
Right. Okay. I mean, I know PNC is. I mean, we used to bank with PNC heavily back when we were part of Truck Parts. Like we were like that. Like they were coming to visit us like on the regular because we had like over $1 million credit line with them. And they were, over the years, they just got more and more gripped and tighter and tighter and tighter, to the point where my dad was like, "Yeah, screw this. We're just gonna go. We use Republic Bank for most of most, not all the banking." Um, so yeah, it makes it
Yeah,
kind of tough.
it was very frustrating. I mean, I don't mind that, they didn't, give us the loan so much. Like, okay, like I'm a big girl, I can deal with that. What I don't like is that they gave us every indication that we would get approved. And they see
Mm,
loans all the time. They see people and they didn't ask for any additional documentation, which they apparently is pretty rare. They didn't ask any like questions about the information we provided. Um, and there's no recourse, like you can't appeal the loan and there's no way to get like clarity on their decision. So it's just dead in the water. It is what it is. And that's the end of the road for that sort of financing. So that's the thing that it's irritating, is that you spend all this time and you're given all of this, like, oh yeah, yeah, you guys are good. You're golden. Like, this looks great. We love your business plan. And then you're like, okay. We're just like, all right,
Well,
we're gonna check,
the people you're talking to are not the people making the decision, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but it's still people that have seen loan app. They have experience with loan applications. They know
hmm
what looks good.
They would have seen
What
lots
looks
come across the
through.
desk.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we're relying on sort of their expertise in the process. Like, it just seems like you just wasted a lot.
That's where you went wrong.
I think so. I hate banks. Putting my money under the mattress.
Uh,
Uh,
Definitely.
well, hopefully that works out. I mean, financing through the person in which you're buying from is not necessarily a bad
No.
way to do it. I mean, I know in the show they were talking in Undercover Billionaire season 2. Grant Cardone worked a deal out to do that, so they didn't have to go through a bank to get a building. They basically, it was a rent to own situation. They drew up a contract, and it's like, okay, we're just going to pay this, and then we'll worry about getting the loan later on. At least we have the building locked up for, with the intent to buy. So I mean, there's a lot of things that like you could do
Yeah.
to work deals out like that,
we've done
especially if
it.
they're in that position. Oh, you've
We
done it.
purchased
Oh,
one of our shops by vendor financing, where the bank would only give us a certain amount of the price, and the vendor really wanted to sell, so we said the only way that you can do it is to make up the difference. It actually was a really win-win situation. We actually got the vendor finance through her for 0% interest, because she really wanted to move on, and it meant that she for 3 years had a regular monthly income coming
Yeah.
in. So it
Yeah.
worked for her, it worked for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great when it can work out that way, you know.
Yeah.
And not have to have a bank involved.
Yeah, I know. Well, if we can just remove the
100%.
bank, yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, we really like the seller a lot. We get along well with her, and she's got other business ventures. So I think, just getting sort of this off of her plate is probably a little bit more important than just having a windfall of cash. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
super
sounds
excited.
like a win-win for in that situation.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, thanks for
Oh,
asking.
hopefully we have some celebratory news in a couple of weeks.
I hope so.
Yes,
I hope so. I'll let you
give the
know.
Bella work out there.
Yeah.
Um, so, Sam, I know for the longest time, going back at least, that you were a big fan of Brain.fm. Are you still a fan at this point?
100%. I listened to it last night when I couldn't sleep.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed out like forever ago at this point. I don't know, probably in like 2016 or something. On the lifetime AppSumo deal, that would have been awesome to have, for $50 lifetime access. But did you know that you can get a lot of those types of music for free on YouTube?
Yeah, also Spotify.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't pay for Spotify, so
Oh, okay.
so for me, like I have found like these channels that like all they have is like study music, deep focus music,
Yeah.
ADHD focus music,
Mhm.
all these different types of brain neural type of music, looping for 10 hours straight. And yeah,
Wow.
so to me that's the one cool thing because it just like I'm not listening to it. And I'll tell you, when I did use Brain FM, I always felt like I was in and I never really watched the show, but like an episode of like NCIS or something, because it's like it actually would make my heart race faster because I felt like I'm
Really?
in like a movie with like actual pressure of things happening or like
Wow.
enhance or trying to see the person, the killer's right there on the screen. Why can't we see his face? And like I'm sitting there trying to like piece the picture to make it enhanced so that we can make out a face.
Wow.
Yeah, it actually I mean, I forget which one I used
Oh,
because I
anything
was
that
doing like the
induces
free trial.
anxiety is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. It was not good. But this particular one, deep focus music on what channel is this on? Green Red Productions. Um, super recommended. Go and check it
Nice.
out if you need something for focusing music.
Nice.
But
Nice find, Joe.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine. I use something
Thank you.
similar for sleep on Apple Music. If you just search sleep music, there are a couple good channels. There's one in particular. It has a very I think it's got a generic name, but it's got a black staticky background as the picture. And oh my gosh, I've never slept better. I just put that on at night, sleep like a baby.
We
Nice.
use we use brown noise at night, and we use it through the Apple Music on the Home Pod. So like white noise, it's too harsh on the ears, it's too high
Mhm.
pitched, and
Mhm.
brown noise just brings like it's like lower end, bassy kind of brown like white noise,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it just is so much easier to me. It's so much easier on the ears, but especially if you have like a fan and the music is hitting the fan and going like like creating like
Mm.
a ticking sound because of the reflections off the fan. It doesn't have as much of that going on with the lower frequencies than the high pitch frequencies. Speaking of sleep, though, Jen, how has your bed been working out? The from the
There's a
saga
blast from the past.
from like a year ago.
I mean, it's good. It's still good. I sleep in it every night.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't complain. I love my adjustable, the adjustable frame. I love it. Yeah.
That part hasn't gotten old at all.
No, I really like it because I read every night. I think I told you this. I read every night like to get me to sleep. And I just like to sit up and read, and then as I'm falling asleep, I'll lower the bed back to the flat position. So,
Oh, very cool. Very
thanks,
good. Yeah,
Pat.
that
Thank
I
you
would
for
like that for laptop use.
Mhm.
That is better than propping up pillows, and then my neck still ends up hurting anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what was happening
Mm,
before the adjustable frame is I could never quite get comfortable like with the pillows. So this really helps.
Oh, that is
nice.
awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us here on the Business Geeks podcast.
And we covered a lot from
We
burgers
did.
to business.
Nightmare ex-employees.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And this episode is brought to you by our good friends Leon and your podcast concierge.com. If you wanted to get your own podcast, hey, I'm celebrating 8 years. I wish back then I had the people like Leon and his team working on my podcast back then. God, I would have got so much more sleep. I would have had so much more time for marketing it and getting it, out into people's hands versus worrying about editing it, worrying about this background noises and things like that. Just all of that taken care of with your podcast concierge.com. Love you, Leon. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sponsoring the show. We will be back in 2 weeks when we sorry, I got a text message. We'll be back in 2 weeks. See, now Leon can edit that out, make me sound really smart. Like I didn't just stop what I was saying. We'll be back in 2 weeks on that Thursday. I don't know what Thursday that is.
Don't worry
But
about
it's two Thursdays from now at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or Friday at 7 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's taken a couple years, but I feel like I'm finally getting.
I think you're finally
getting
there,
it.
Joe.
I think
Until-
you should
until
change
the
the
time
name to
changes.
Wake Up with Sam. Anybody?
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. We will be back then. Thank you all for watching and joining with us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Good.
No.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.